When you put your modified shelf inside a modified cabinet, you will find that the shelf may not sit as nice as it should because you have cut away that half a hole that is sitting on the underside of the shelf. Yes, right there. So keep watching to see how I recreate those holes on the shelves. Before we start making the holes, we need to know where do we put them on the shelf. And it depends on two things. It depends on whether the shelf has been cut in the depth or the shelf has been cut in the width. If it's cut in the depth, we might not need to put in those holes, because if you only cut a little bit, like an inch or two away, then you don't need to re-establish those holes. But if we cut the shelves more than that, or we cut it in the width, we certainly need to make some new holes. So let's start by cutting some holes in the shelves that has been cut in the depth. And when we start doing that, it should not come as a surprise that we also need to make some new holes inside the cabinet, because if we have cut the hole away on the shelf, the hole has been cut away on the cabinet as well. So let's start by doing that, and that is not difficult because you just want to put in a few holes. You don't want to put in the whole 25 holes or how many are sitting inside a 30-inch cabinet. So just find a few positions. What I do is I put two shelves in, one in hole number 8 and one in hole number 16. And that's what I'm doing here. I will use my angle to plot in the position at the back of the cabinet, and where you put it is not that important. You just want it a few inches from the back, so there's room for you to drill that hole. And you simply just take your awl, and then you mark where you want to put that shelf. I can highly recommend that you have the same distance between the two holes on all of them, because otherwise you have to mark the shelves individually. And then bring out the drill. I put a piece of tape on my drill so I don't drill all the way through. Should you do that, it's not a disaster, because you will most likely have a panel sitting on side of the cabinet. So drill those holes, and when that's done, turn the cabinet around and do it all again. And when you have done both sides, you can put in the little metal peg, and now you can measure the distance between the two pegs so you know where to drill that hole on the shelves. So in order to put that measurement on your shelf, you put the two shelves you have and put them back to back with those two half holes lining up, and then you just measure out the distance you had between the two pegs, and you make a mark on your shelves. Now you know where to put that hole for the hole to line up with the peg inside the cabinet. And as you can see, you have to turn it around and make a mark on the other side of the shelf as well. When we're marking on the shelves that needs to go inside a cabinet that has been cut in the width, it's a little bit different, because on the shelves we have cut away one entire side of the shelf, and that means we have taken away all 2 or 3 holes depending on how deep that shelf is. So what we do, we just want to replicate what's on the other side of that shelf, and you do that when you have 2 of them. You just again put them back to back, you take your pencil and you mark them. And that's basically it. Now you know exactly where you want to drill those holes. So finally we get to how to make the holes, and I do that in one of 2 ways. I can either use a regular drill bit or I can use a special tool. Let's start with the regular drill bit, because I guess that's the most common way of doing it, because most people don't want to go out and spend $50 on a special tools for drilling these holes. So what we do is, now we have marked the shelves, you simply take your utility knife and you cut a little V-shaped notch into the side where you want to drill that hole. And as we're drilling from the end of the shelf, you cut that little notch into the side of the shelves where you want the hole. And the reason for doing that is that the surface material that are put on those particle boards are extremely hard. And that means if we take 2 shelves, clamp them together back to back to drill a hole right in the center, or where those 2 shelves they meet, the drill will wander off to one of the sides, because of that material is so hard that it cannot stay centered. It's definitely very difficult to stay centered. But what I've figured out here is that if I make that little notch, then I have kind of made a little pre-drill on both of those shelves for the bigger bigger drill to stay focused on the center. And with a little bit of a little bit of power when you drill, and you clamp them tightly together, and you hold really well onto your drill, then it is possible to let the drill stay in the middle when it's drilling. And you only want to go into 3/8 of the depth, and with that drill, because you don't need more. And the size of the drill, I normally use 3/8 of an inch, but that's not so important whether you use 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch, or maybe even 5/16 or something in that size range. And then you simply drill your hole the best you can. Really try to keep focus on that you stay right in the middle of those two shelves. That is the main purpose. As you can imagine, that if it wander off to one of the sides, the shelf will wiggle a little bit when it's lying on the 4 pegs inside the cabinet. And that is not a disaster. We just like to do it the best way possible. Finally, we get into where I will show you how to make these holes with a special tool. And unless you're pursuing a career as someone who's going out drilling holes in shelves all day long, I don't think that you should invest the money, because it's about $50 or so. And does it do a better job? Yeah, it does. It's easier, but I don't think it's money well spent unless you have a lot of shelves to do. I bought it because I sometimes cut a handful of cabinets back in the depth or the width, and then I have to make so many shelves that I find it an advantage to use this tool. Here you go. You can see how it's working. It's kind of self-explanatory, that you just basically put it on where you want to have that hole, and you clamp it on both shelves at the same time, and then you have put a collar on your drill so you don't go any deeper than you want to, and you simply drill. And as you can see here, it stays pretty well in the center. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would be super happy if you would subscribe to my channel. And if you're looking into modifying some of the IKEA kitchen cabinets, I can recommend that you take a look at these videos.